The story starts with an elderly couple reminiscing about what they would do differently if they were young again. The old man feels sad because when they were young, they were poor and couldn't afford to go on a honeymoon together. His wife reassures him not to worry, saying that simply being together was sufficient. They go to check the apple tree they planted for their wedding, and we learn that they planted it to celebrate their marriage 60 years ago. When they arrive at their tree, they are surprised to see a gold apple hanging to it. At night, as the grandfather heads to the bathroom, he regrets not being able to buy anything special for his wife when they were poor. However, as he looks in the mirror, he's astonished to see that he has become young again. Excitedly, he rushes to his wife, exclaiming that he's become young again. To his amazement, he finds that his wife has also regained her youth. He grabs her arm and suggests that they go on a honeymoon together. The next day, as their granddaughter checks on them, she's completely shocked to find her grandparents have become young again. Inside the house, Grandma looks jealous seeing her granddaughter staying too close to her husband. She asks if she could have Grandpa, but the grandma refuses immediately. Later, as they're heading home with her father, she tells him about the grandparents turning young, but he doesn't believe her and asks where she got that idea. The next day, two elderly men discuss how Shizu and Ayane haven't been coming around to play lately due to their poor health. However, everything changes when they become young again, and their friends are thrilled for them. The next day, as Keith brings the ingredients Grandma asked for, she's completely surprised to see Grandpa has become young again. He informs her that Grandma is at a meeting at the center. Apologizing for assuming they already knew about their transformation, Keith tells him it's fine and excuses herself for a moment, and we see that she got rizzed up by the husband's father and mentions that she needs to tell her husband about it. When Yoshiaki sees them, he can't believe it's actually true. He realizes that this was what Mino meant about pretending their dad was her boyfriend. Mino explains that Grandpa is super kind unlike him, and he even understood what she was playing. She gets closer to his barrier, and we see a funny face stunned. They all start fighting over Grandpa, while he tells his wife he only has eyes for her, but we later see that Grandma gave him a mark on his face. As they get ready to leave, Ayane gives her son a praise on his head for working so much, and we see a memory of them when he was young. The next day, a group of elders discuss the sports festival and express concern since participation has dwindled. Worried that Kitamachi will win again, they consider withdrawing. However, Shizu arrives with his perfect physique, and they start revering him like a god. They plead with him to enter the sports festival. On the day of the festival, an old man from Kitamachi mocks them, claiming that Minamimachi is full of old men and they don't stand a chance against his grandsons. They counter by mentioning their secret weapon. The old man laughs at them, but when Shizu and Ayane arrive and introduce themselves, the old man and his grandsons are completely stunned. They start playing tug of war, and one of his grandsons is surprised that even with their strongest contestants, they are still struggling against them. The grandpa struggles and worries they are going to lose, but when his wife cheers for them to win, he gathers the power from her cuteness and manages to beat them, and Grandma realizes that her husband enjoys these kinds of things, and they also manage to beat them at the other challenges too. They feel down about this, and his grandsons are sad they didn't win any challenges against them. Ayane approaches them and offers them some food. The old man asks why she isn't with Shizu, but she explains that he is so popular. She tells him that his grandsons look a lot like him when he was young, and brings up the confession he made to her before, which surprises his grandsons, and they realize why he always wants to fight them. Ayane tells them to become better men by next year and come again. A week after Grandpa Igarashi asked Shota to drop off something as a thank you for a meal they had. When Mino opened the door, Shota got all flustered and just handed over the bag. Mino invited him inside, and Shota felt super awkward, sitting there unable to talk properly, holding his tea. He had no clue that Mino was related to that Saito couple. Shota knew Mino was super popular at school, and even though he always had trouble communicating, she was always cheerful with him. He tried to distract himself with his phone, but Mino got interested in what he was playing. Meanwhile, Mino's mom and grandma were spying on them, and Kate was wondering what to do if her daughter got a boyfriend and eventually got married. On the other hand, Shizu was excited about having great-grandchildren. Talking to Shizu, Shota found him really kind, but he felt a lot of pressure from Ayane and Keed. The adults wanted to know more about Shota, and Mino praised him for being smart and good at sports. However, this made Ayane and Kate nervously whisper and judge whether he'd be a good match for Mino. Shizu tried to ask Shota if he liked any girl, but his wife quickly stopped him, making up an excuse about a mosquito on his face. Shota said his goodbyes and left for the evening. As Mino walked back into the living room with her grandfather, she was a bit sad because she wanted to talk with Shota alone a bit more. Another day, Mino was surprised to hear that her grandmother was the one who confessed to Shizu first. They married for love, which was rare back then. Shizu always yearned for Ayane and told her he was overjoyed. However, the times wouldn't allow it. His father wanted him to have an arranged marriage with the daughter of his friend. At first, Shizu didn't do anything, but he ended up having a big fight with his father. He even thought about eloping, but with Ayane's support, they managed to overcome everything. Shizu remembered Ayane being so cool back then. She even stood up to the girl his father introduced to him, saying she'd never let her have her man. Hearing all this, Mino decided to ask Ayane if she could think of her as the love rival and reenact that moment. Ayane had no choice but to go along with it, making Mino and Shizu gush over her. On another day, we see two teenagers walking through some apple trees and talking about how farming isn't cool and only old people do it now. Suddenly, their attention is drawn to a girl working there who turns out to be grandma. They're surprised because they only ever saw an old couple working in the orchard. As they walk away, they wonder who she is, and we see grandpa coming to get grandma and tells the boys to take care. Before they became young again, grandma sees some flyers showing some dresses she likes them a lot, and we see grandpa noticing this. The next day, grandma asks him where he went earlier, but he says he just went for a little walk. She sees a package on the table and wonders what it is, and we see that grandpa got her the dress she liked, and she happily hugs him, saying it's a lovely gift, which makes the grandpa blush. Later they are seeing some teenagers kissing, and grandpa with his 50 years before mentality says that teenagers watch some really insane stuff and wonders what's so good about it, and claims that even if they don't kiss they would still understand each other. And when he asks about the opinion of the grandma, we see her completely dazed by the movie. He asks what's wrong, and she asks him to do her a favor, and then we see that the favor she asked him for was to lock her in a corner. We see her completely captivated by his looks, but grandpa thinks that is just a waste of time and leaves, leaving grandma blushing. At night, we see that her other granddaughter has come to stay over. We learn that she had an argument with her dad and ran away to her grandma's house. However, she didn't realize that grandma had turned young. Grandma asks what she wants for dinner, but she says she's alright. We learn that she keeps getting bullied at school, and her dad shouts at her for not having high grades. She confides in grandma, expressing how she ran away from thinking about her career and friends, feeling like she has nothing despite working hard. Grandma reassures her, saying her hard work will always pay off and reminding her that she will always be her precious granddaughter, no matter what others say. She starts crying and asks grandma if she could cook something for her. Long time ago, we see grandma apologizing to grandpa for not being able to go on vacation because she got sick again. However, he reassures her, saying it's okay, and emphasizing that her health is more important. She suggests he go alone with Yoshiaki, but he tells her it's not the same as going with her, and we learn that he wants to see her in swimming suit and show off to all his friends. We see grandma looking at some magazines about swimsuits, wondering what grandpa would like. Shiori sits down and tells grandma that she is super pretty, and that everything she wears is going to look fine. Then, we see her leaving, mentioning she will think about it while she cooks. Later, grandma is so happy that she doesn't need to wear glasses anymore. We see Mino testing her vision by reading a newspaper. Grandpa comes in and asks what's going on. Mino gets an idea and tells grandma to read all the words she points out. As she reads, we see that the words she pointed out were "Grandpa, you are really wonderful." When she realizes it, we see them both blushing. They play the same game with Mino and tease her when she gets embarrassed. Later, as they watch a couple holding hands on TV, Mino asks her grandparents if they have ever gone on a date holding hands. Grandma tells her that they have never done something like that before, and grandpa adds that once you become a wizened old couple, holding hands is more like helping each other walk, and Mino adds that he doesn't have a drop of romance in him. The next day, as they are heading home, grandpa notices that grandma is not wearing a glove on her right hand. He contemplates taking her hand, but hesitates, recalling Mino's earlier remark. However, grandma had purposely left off her glove as a hint, hoping they could walk hand in hand. Surprised, she notices a sign of acceptance from his hand, and we see them walking home together. Hand by hand, they receive a visit from Takahiro, and then they begin to explain how they suddenly became young. The doctor who is their child is completely surprised, and when he analyzes his parents' health and notices that his mother's breathing is more stable than ever, and her pulse, which was previously very fast. After taking the control, Takahiro explains that he will provide the detailed results another time. When leaving the place, Takahiro remembers when he discovered that his mother had liver cancer. He explains that the reason he wanted to become a doctor was to save his mother, but in the end, the only thing he could do was introduce her to a good doctor who administered medicine and ran some tests. Takahiro started to feel guilty for just watching her waste away, without being able to do anything. Coming back to the present, he begins to cry with emotion, because the fact that his mother became young again saved her from death, even though he didn't do anything to make it happen. In the past, the grandparents return to the garden where they planted a tree together. When they see the tree about to fall, Shizu Shizu refuses to let it die and tries to bandage it as quickly as possible. After managing to keep it standing, they take the only fruit that the tree has sprouted and return home to eat at the golden apple. While they eat, we see the tree thanking them and collapses, and in the middle of the night, Ayane has a strange dream about an hourglass which completely crushes her. Returning to the present, she comments once again about this bizarre dream with Shizu, who says he also had the same dream. When they discuss the dinner plans, Shizu says he hasn't prepared anything yet. However, when Ayane opens the fridge, she comes across a piece of cake and goes to Shizu, saying that he lied when he said he didn't prepare anything. Then we see the two of them down eating and enjoying the treat.